Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Vinny Costa, editor of Street Muscle Magazine, and your host of the RodCAST, the all-encompassing car show where we talk about all things automotive. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Greg Acosta, editor of Engine Labs and all-around tech guru. What's up, Greg?
Hey, Vinny, how you doing?
I'm good, man.
You got a different background.
That's right. Oh, yeah. For episode 23, I thought I'd mix it up. No, actually, we're painting the other room, and so, I got to use this one. But
construction, it's always fun.
This is where I get the majority of my work done, and so I feel comfortable here for episode 23, dude. We're almost at 25. That's pretty cool.
Well, when 26 is going to be the big one because that's 6 months. That's half a year.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Man, it's been a lot of fun, and this episode is going to be no different. This is going to be another great episode. Actually, I've been wanting to have this guest on since the inception of the RodCAST. He was one of the first people I asked to be on the show, and he said yes. He's had a hell of a year, been super busy, and so have we, in his defense. And so we've finally been able to connect. And Greg, he's a very special guest. He's the marketing manager at QA1, and he's also the mastermind behind the hashtag that turned into an automotive movement, goDRIVEit, Dave Kass.
Now, if I could just, there we go.
What up?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing really well. I'm starting to feel like a pro here with these virtual meetings and podcasts and stuff that we do.
Yeah, man. It's just, you got to remember what to do with your hands.
I know. Where do I put my hands? I do that in a lot of the videos that we do at QA1 or different things where you're standing there like, all right, where's the frame? Where do I put my hand? What's going on here?
No, man, I saw one recently you did with my buddy Jacob Davis, and it came out really natural, and it was cool, man. And we can get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, that was a cool visit. I'm glad he came up.
Yeah, that was really cool. He really embodies the spirit of goDRIVEit, and that's something I want to touch on right away for our viewers and listeners who maybe are not as familiar, although they should be. I want to get into what goDRIVEit is and how it started. When you and I typically get together, we're usually talking about new products and stuff, and that's great. But today I want to pick your brain about some other things you have going on, namely the hashtag goDRIVEit. How did it get started? What are your goals with it? Give us the whole rundown, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, goDRIVEit was something that we started a few years ago, and I think we started it, and actually still today, we don't know fully what goDRIVEit is and what it's turning into. But I mean, some have called it a movement, some have called it an initiative. But essentially, at its foundation, at its core, it's encouragement for people to get out and enjoy their vehicle, regardless of what type of car it is, what the condition is, or where you drive or how you drive it. Essentially, it's anything. And it stemmed originally from literally a conversation I was having with someone where I was talking to them and they said, or they had a really, really nice Chevelle. And we're putting our cars away for the winter up here in Minnesota. We do that. Just, we get some brutal winters. And I was asking like, hey, how many miles did you put on the Chevelle this year? And he said, oh, just a couple hundred. And I was taken back by that. And I asked, why only a couple hundred miles? And honestly, his response, he didn't really have an answer. He said, I guess I don't know. There's a certain thing about the odometer ticking up over time that just scares me, and didn't really have a good answer. And I started reflecting to other people that I knew or I was associated with, or you always hear about that car that only comes up for the one car show. I'm like, this has to change. We have to have somebody somewhere somehow pushing to just get out and drive the cars. Celebrate that rock chip on the hood or whatever it might be, and make some memories, have some fun with it.
Definitely, man. So it's interesting because now we're in this time where there aren't any car shows. There aren't, as many organized meets and things like that. And so the whole goDRIVEit thing is just, it's amplified. All these people, these personalities, these, builders and enthusiasts who are famous maybe on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, wherever. Whereas, they might have unveiled a new build or something at a car show. Well, now they're going out to things like the quarantine cruise or just, just getting out there and go driving it, man. You know what I mean? So is that something that you guys are seeing? I know that you guys have something in the works, and we can touch on that in a little bit. But is that like a driving force for the Go Drive It movement right now?
Well, I think it's actually, the fact that car shows aren't happening and some of the big races and different things like it's a really big bummer, but some of that stuff needs to happen. Hopefully we can make a recovery here and get back to life as normal, hopefully soon. But one of the outcomes that we've witnessed is, like you said, the quarantine cruise is breaking records. It seems like every time they have one. But even up, in our area, what I'm witnessing is, all these pop-up cruises, or a young kid having his birthday, and all these cars driving by and honking their horns and revving their engines and stuff. And it's so cool to see. But if you sit back and look at just at its core and the foundation of what it is, we're getting back to enjoying the cars for what they're made for, right? Like, we didn't build our cars or find our cars, enthusiast cars, just to let them sit in the garage. Like, we want to take them out. We want to go do something with our friends and family, experience things, see things that you otherwise maybe wouldn't if you didn't just take your vehicle out and, I guess, go out for the sole purpose of just driving and not so much the appliance side of, I need to go run to the store real quick to go do this thing, right? So, yeah, I think an outcome of everything that's been happening over the past several months has been more driving and more meets and more things, because it is something we can do together still.
Yeah, I never thought about this until just now while you were describing that. But do you think it's, QA1 is a suspension company, and they're, a huge driving force behind the Go Drive It thing. Do you think it lends itself, that hashtag, that movement is an accessory to that whole suspension thing, right? Like, if your car is already running, but you have, crappy suspension, crappy brakes or whatever, and, you're going to have a huge increase in enjoyment by rebuilding some suspension, right? And you're going to want to go drive it more than if you make something really fast, but it's super sketchy to drive. I've never made that connection before. Is that something that you've thought about?
I guess in different ways, yes. One of the things that, we talk about internally, just at a kind of the foundation, if we're going to look at, why do we do what we do, a lot of it kind of boils back to our products enable you to have fun with your car, right? And you might get more enjoyment. It's been so fun over the years going to events where someone said, "Hey, I just bought your single adjustable shocks, and that's all I did. I put them in my car, but my gosh, I turned the knob and it does this, and I turned the knob this other way, it does that," and they just light up. They had so much fun seeing the cause and effect of a relatively simple install that they were able to perform themselves. And they had an absolute ball driving their car, or it reinvigorated something about their driving experience that maybe was otherwise lost.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head of what I was trying to formulate, but much more eloquently. Thank you.
Yeah. But it's not limited to just suspension, though, right? It could be putting on a good set of tires. It could be putting on a set of performance brake pads. It could be some relatively basic things. But those subtle enhancements over time, it encourages you to quickly get it installed, get on the road and see what it did, right? Like, there's always that, close the hood. All right, I think everything's bolted up. Let's go for a drive type of feel that I think all of us have felt at one point or another. But it's just that, again, enablement to just have fun with your car, So
just
absolutely.
getting them back out on the road for sure, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting them back out on the road, you guys have a cruise coming up. Can you tell us more about that? I don't want to, speak on something I don't know about, so I'll let you kind of take it.
Yeah, for sure. So we are hosting our second goDRIVEit cruise, and we held our first one back in May. And it was kind of one of those things where a couple of the events up near us were canceled, and we're all just kind of sitting around. It's springtime up here in Minnesota. The trees are turning green. The snow is melting, and like the normal car stuff that we would just get out and do wasn't happening. And so we said, hey, let's put together a cruise. We can't have a car show in our parking lot because of different area restrictions that we have, but let's just get some of our car friends together and have some fun, go for a cruise. So put together a fun little route that brought us out to the Minnesota River Valley. It was about 100 miles all said and done, and put a deal up on Facebook. And before you knew it, I mean, it wasn't, I don't know, it was probably 3-4 days. We had over 1,000 people interested, and it blew up, right? So we ended up with, I think it was well over 400 cars showed up in total on that given Saturday. We had Lakeville, or our Lakeville area police department. They came and helped with some traffic control in a couple of spots, just because I wasn't expecting, or anybody at QA1 was expecting, that type of turnout. But it ended up working out really good. And I guess the reception from that was, let's do this again. And so kind of got through some busy periods throughout the summer, and there's a lot of different things that were happening. But we're hosting our second goDRIVEit cruise on the 8th of August.
The 8th of August. I understand this one's not going to be the same as the last one, in that there's going to be some added inclusion for people who aren't able to be in the area.
Yes, absolutely. So we're making some enhancements to the cruise. So one of the pieces of feedback that we received on our last cruise was, if we're geographically up in Minnesota, it's not feasible for maybe someone who lives in Georgia to come up and participate. I mean, let's face it, it's 18, 19 hours away. And so there's a lot of requests and a lot of actual subgroups and people within the goDRIVEit community that started little offspring cruises that they did with their friends on that same day, which I thought was really neat. And so one of the things that we're thinking about for this one is, how do you get or give the opportunity for people all over the country, or I guess world for that matter, to participate? And one of the things that we came up with is, what if we just did an odometer challenge? Right. So speaking back to, again, that conversation I had with that owner of the Chevelle who's afraid of the odometer, this challenge is actually the opposite, where we're encouraging you to get out and drive your car and put miles on the odometer, right? And so the plan is, we're hosting the cruise on August 8th. So over the course of that weekend, so 7th, 8th, and 9th, we're inviting everyone around the country, around the world, to get behind the wheel, whether it be for 20 miles, 200 miles, or whatever they're able to log, and just celebrate driving their car and get out and see something on their own, or with their friends, with their family, whatever the situation calls for. So it's hopefully going to be a fun way to bring, I guess, more all-inclusive feel, no matter where you live, to that goDRIVEit cruise day.
Have you guys already started to see people in the goDRIVEit Facebook group organize like those sub cruises on that same weekend?
Yeah, not so much yet on the same weekend. We just started doing promotions on it just now.
Okay.
But I would imagine we're going to see different sub cruises pop up as a result of the odometer initiative. And we've seen that before. Like, we've seen, there's been some groups that will, through the Carolinas, I think it was, but they went through and did a bridge tour. And they went and saw a lot of the cool bridges around some of the back roads of their area. I think they went to, a dozen or so bridges over the course of a weekend. Or there have been other cruises too, where I've seen where it could be an all-truck cruise, or I've seen a lot of European stuff as well, where people are getting together and driving their stuff. So, I mean, I bet we'll see a lot of those kind of subgroups kind of come out from this as well. So that's kind of
that, man. Yeah. It's got to be the next best thing to these these shows that we're missing out on, unfortunately. But I think it's awesome, man. How cool is that? How many people is the Facebook goDRIVEit group strong now?
We are about 5,700 people in the group right now.
That's awesome.
And what's really neat is, I mean, ultimately, we set up, it started with a hashtag, way back when, and we saw some early adopters just take it and run with it, embrace it, and show a lot of passion around it. And that continued to grow. And it wasn't until a little over a year ago, really, that we started the group. And just a Facebook group, hashtag goDRIVEit. If you're not a member, I encourage you to go join. I know, Vinny, you are.
Certainly.
But it's a really cool group in respect that it's a group, at least from my point of view, it's all inclusive. If you have an automobile, and even motorcycles, I've seen a few motorcycles in there, that it doesn't matter what it is. There's no trash talking back and forth of Ford versus Chevy or import versus domestic or anything like that. Like, it's, people are really supportive within the group. But what I love seeing is people sharing an experience that they had, whether it be something over the weekend that they went and drove to, or you'll be able to share something with a family member, maybe it's one of the, father-son duo or a wife and husband type of thing. It's just been cool seeing memories shared on the group, and the engagement has been out of this world, which is something I'm truly proud of because the engagement numbers are unreal.
Oh, it's so cool, man. I'm always watching the comment section of all the goDRIVEit posts or people who are posting in the goDRIVEit page.
Right.
And invariably, man, it's so cool. Like, you'll see someone do like front end Friday, and it'll be just whatever their car is, an old Chevelle or a Fairlane or whatever. And then just a string of comments, people posting up their car, the front end of their car. And like you said, it doesn't really matter what it is. It could be a 90s Thunderbird or a 1500 Chevy pickup truck from the 90s. People are just enthusiastic about their cars, and there's so many different subgroups of people who, maybe they're part of a Thunderbird specific Facebook group, but it's just another outlet for people to talk about cars in general. And I haven't seen any like trash talking or brand myopathy. Everybody's like just really open, and it's a cool spot to be in, because on social media so often you see people, oh yeah, that Ford will never run, or that Chevy, oh, it's a piece of junk. But not on goDRIVEit. It's a weird anomaly. It's cool.
Yeah, I honestly don't know fully what to credit that to. It's just naturally kind of happened on its own, and I think the community has helped keep it that way. And I was speaking to the engagement earlier, but as I was like looking at the analytics and just seeing how the group is working. And one of the cool things that I pride ourselves on is that, like, if you look back on like the last month, 95% of the people in goDRIVEit have engaged with goDRIVEit in one way, shape, or form. And I thought that was a really important statistic, because it shows that there's genuine interest in the thought of driving your vehicle. And it wasn't until a couple weeks ago I was drilling down into the analytics further and further, and then I found on a daily basis, on a 24-hour span, half of the group does something within the group. So half of the people, 50% of the people, engage with goDRIVEit on a daily basis for the people that are members of the group.
Wow, that's awesome.
Which I think is just so cool, because I've been in some groups where you have 100,000 people, 200,000 people, and you get the same cast of folks that do 90% of the posting, but it's just completely different here. And I think it's just so cool to see.
Yeah, it'd be difficult to get one of those top fan stars on a goDRIVEit.
I know. Look at the top 10 folks that post in there. I mean, it is tough because there are so many posts that take place. But the other thing that I think is neat is, and I think the people within goDRIVEit appreciate this, is, QA1's a proud supporter of goDRIVEit, yet QA1 does a really nice job letting goDRIVEit be goDRIVEit.
Definitely.
And not try to inject the hot product of the week on the group, or get in there with, some type of, I guess, direct advertisement per se for, a QA1 product. And so, we'll share some of our content in there. Like if, like we shared, and we mentioned Jacob Davis earlier, he drove across the country to come see us, and we talked about his car. We shared that in there because that's goDRIVEit spirit material.
Definitely.
But we're not going to post in there again, here's a flyer for the new product we're launching. It's just not really how we want to engage, or I guess help or hurt the goDRIVEit community. We're going to let goDRIVEit be what goDRIVEit is.
Well, I'm not like a Facebook analytics guru, although it is a part of what I do, monitoring my own things like that. But I would imagine that the amount of engagement that you guys are seeing at such a high level from your users and the members, it's got to be because of that, right? It's organic content. It's not forced. They're not being sold something. It's just, hey, it's all in the title. goDRIVEit. That's what it's about. It's not about us, selling products or things like that. And people would pick up on that. Although obviously QA1 is a fantastic company and they produce some fantastic parts. I think that people are more apt to share their own stories, their own projects, if they don't think a company is behind it, like running the page. That might be a little bit presumptuous, but I don't know.
No, I think there is something to that, though, and again, I'm really proud that that's a direction that we've taken with goDRIVEit. We established that early on. That again, I kind of joked earlier, like goDRIVEit is this fragile little egg, and we're not sure really what to do with it fully. But not to make light of that, but like seriously, goDRIVEit grew, or it stemmed from a grassroots initiative. And we're going to let that continue to be what it is, and we're going to encourage the continued growth, but we're not trying to inject it, like I said, with a lot of advertisement type of material.
With this cruise that you have coming up, do you guys have any plans on doing anything special with like documentation of the cruise? Can we expect to see maybe some videos on not only the Facebook page, but do you guys do anything on YouTube, etc.?
Yeah, so we do have a recap video that we have from our first cruise. So you can check out QA1.net and QA1.net/cruise. That'll have information for this cruise and a little bit of pictures and whatnot from our last cruise. But also on YouTube, we do have a video that we have on there as well. But for this cruise, we plan on having some photographers on staff, not only at QA1 where that's kind of the kickoff point, but along the cruise as well, getting rolling shots of cars. And I love, there's something about a rolling shot, right? Like if you get a really good rolling shot of a car with a good backdrop, that's a tough picture to recreate on your own, right? It's everybody can go pull off in a parking lot or along a scenic road and take a picture of the car static. But I always think it's fun getting some good rolling shots from cars as they're in motion. It really brings them to light.
Certainly. A little photography tip for people who are interested in exercising their photography skills. And I got this from my buddy BJ because he's always photographing cars in motion. He's the editor of One Dirt, and so he's constantly taking photos of dirt track cars. And he says, if a car's in motion and you can capture the driver's face, specifically their eyes, and get that in focus, your chances of getting a good photo of that car are much better. So
sure.
Just a quick tip.
That's a really good tip. I mean, I tell you what, I have a lot of respect for the people that cover circle track racing and they do photos of them, because I mean, watching those guys, if you ever stand like either in the infield or even just in the grandstands and watch them take photos, they're just standing there, they're going like this over and over and over. But you need to do that. You need to be able to keep that car in frame as it's going by in order to capture it. It makes for a really cool blurred background effect as well.
Exactly.
But no, that's a good tip. I like that.
Dave, so I know that you guys said that with this odometer challenge, can you expand on that? I know you said that you're going to be, watching what's going on in the goDRIVEit group, but as people post their odometer readings, I know you said that you guys are going to be doing some giveaways and things like that. What's going on with that? Is it a specific
absolutely.
challenge or just random?
Yeah, so the way we're going to do it is, and again, it's kind of in the true goDRIVEit spirit, we just want people to get out and drive, right? And so the challenge is to do just that. It's not necessarily to drive the most amount of miles, because you might have a really busy weekend, but you can get out and drive for a couple hours in the morning. And as long as you're, again, embodying that goDRIVEit spirit, that's what's important to us. And so the way we're looking at framing this up is in the goDRIVEit group, we're going to have a post pinned to the top of the page, right? And that's where you can go in and put in your favorite goDRIVEit memory from that given weekend. And ideally, how many miles you logged, right? And then what we're going to do from there is we're going to compile all those posts, and we're going to take all of those names, everyone that puts their their experience in there, and we're going to kind of go old school, pull them from a fishbowl. We're going to pull out probably 10, 12 different names, and you might get some swag, you might get some QA1 gear, you might win some gas cards. We're going to be doing some different things, again, to hopefully make your next goDRIVEit adventure that much more fun. But no, it's not going to be the highest mileage to crown the winner, if you will. It's going to be, it could be someone that saw something really cool because they drove in a direction and down a road they've never been before and discovered this really neat thing, but only walked 50 miles. We're not trying to find someone that can, try to cruise 500 miles in a weekend or something like that, which, that'd be great. And we might, do a special prize, kind of a QA1 choice prize for the one that we think is the best. But it may be a combination of miles and the experience. We don't know. So
I know that you guys did one cruise before this. When you were out there, obviously people know who you are from just being around in the industry. Do you have a lot of people coming up to you and asking for tips on how to make their car more drivable or more enjoyable when they're driving?
Yeah, that is something that we get quite a bit, actually. Whether it be at events or just out and about. But the biggest place where we get that feedback, or people are just kind of curious, how do I have more fun with my car, is through our customer service and tech line. I can't give our team enough credit back at the office, who are taking calls day in and day out. They're a really passionate group of people, car enthusiasts. They love what they do. They love to talk about cars. And what I think is really neat is they're really good at understanding what's a good mix of parts that suit your needs and not necessarily the most expensive kit that we might offer. There's a time and place for that, but it's not always. And so the customer service and tech line is really where we get a lot of that feedback of, what are people interested in, or what are they trying to achieve with their car? And we've started actually creating some articles and different resources on our website to kind of help with that. One that comes to mind that I think kind of illustrates that is we have a full vehicle suspension system for a lot of muscle cars, for a lot of trucks, a lot of different vehicles. But you know what? Buying a $4,000 suspension kit for your car may not be the right system for you, whether it be a budgetary thing, whether it be time, taking the vehicle down for an extended period of time to replace everything. So we built a resource that kind of walks you through start to finish. Here's what to focus on now. Here's what you can do later.
Oh, cool.
It's kind of best bang for the buck type of thing.
Is there and that's under the tech section on the QA1 website?
Got it. Yep. So if you go to QA1.net and you click on the tech center at the very top, just click on articles. We have an article on there for GM cars, muscle cars, for Ford platforms, and also the Mopar crowd as well.
Well, that's cool.
So it's a nice way, though, to try to make a relatively large project bite size, and you can build it then at the pace that you want to go.
Yeah, that's one cool thing that I found about the kits that QA1 offers is that they're modular in that way, where you can just, I just want to do the back half of the car for right now, or, and then I'll do the front later, however you want to split it up. So that's totally cool. Greg, do we have the?
I have it pulled up right now. I was just gonna ask you if you wanted to go through it.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, happy to, sure, yeah.
So here we go. We're on the text section.
So if you click on articles there in the upper left.
Okay.
And then if you go about, I think it's like midway down, we have the GM article. Yeah, there you go. The suspension upgrades, what to update now and what can wait. So this was built, this article slash kind of how-to was built when, again, we got those questions of, hey, I love your suspension kits. I have them on a different car, or a buddy has them. I'm not looking to do everything at once. How can I kind of chip away at it? And this kind of breaks it down for you. Best bang from the buck. So, we believe firmly that shock's the first place to start. It's going to give you that major seat of the pants improvement to the car. Following up with items like sway bars is a great upgrade, super simple to install. And then carrying on with control arms and, continued enhancement, down the line. But the nice thing is all these parts will intermix with one another without having you repurchase things or redo work you've already done, which is nice.
Yeah, Greg, can you go back to that main page once you're done here? Because I want to take a look at some of those other articles that you guys have on the website. Because, this is a fantastic tool. But, you guys have so many articles that you've done that are fantastic resources. How to install suspension for a C10. I know there's a lot out there, but it's because they're so popular. And you guys seem to be ahead of the curve in terms of that. I know that you guys have a system available for the early F100s that our buddy Ivan actually just ended up putting on his Pro Touring build. Very cool. If you haven't seen that, viewers and listeners, go check out FordMuscle.com. It's on there, one of the project cars. But yeah, man. Do you guys just develop these stories, these articles, to answer questions that your guys' tech center is constantly getting on the phone? Like, you know what? We've answered that question 100 times this week. We should probably just make a resource for people.
Yeah, it's a mix of that. And, just, I guess, being aware of some of the myths that are out there oftentimes too, because, you might be talking to someone and they say, hey, I hear coilovers ride rough. Am I supposed to expect a rough ride if I buy coilovers? You sit back and go, why do people think coilovers ride rough? So let's address that and maybe talk about some of the pitfalls that lead up to a rough riding coilover system and just address it. And
it's funny you mentioned that one, because as we're scrolling through, that's the one that jumps out at me. And my first thought as to why you guys would do that would be eBay.
Sure.
eBay and the internet. That's why people think coilovers ride rough. But it's funny because that's the one that jumps out at me. It's the one you're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that's probably one of your biggest, traffic articles.
That one, we do have a lot of reads on that one on a pretty regular basis, actually. But yeah, I guess it's just being aware and trying to pick up on some of those comments where you're like, yeah, why do people think that? And try to explain that. We're a resource. We're here to try to help you. Again, like I said, have fun with your car. And if your coilovers are riding rough, you're not focusing on driving and having fun. You're focusing on the next pothole. That's all you're thinking about the entire time, right?
Well, Dave, I can say with some confidence that you are an authority on the subject. The C10 that you have sitting behind you, I know it wasn't always wearing a QA1 suspension. Can you tell us what it has on it, and then just your impressions from driving it before and then driving it after?
Yeah, absolutely. So this C10 that's behind me here, it's a 72 C10. I've owned it now, I think going on 5 or 6 years, and this truck's my baby. I love this truck to death. It didn't always look and perform the way it does today. It was always seafoam green, and it will always be seafoam green. But the truck started life, came from North Dakota. I bought it from a local person here in Minnesota, and just a 350 with a turbo 350 trans, pretty mild. Nothing really major was done to it. And it was shortly after I acquired it that QA1 started doing development work in preparation for our C10 product line we launched years ago. And so I raised my hand and said, can I be the guinea pig? And so this truck became that development truck. So what we did with it was over the course of, it was probably, I don't know, I'd say it was over a year of testing and trying different things and figuring out what the right combo was. But this truck here had all the different revs of prototypes on here as we figured out how much caster do these trucks really like, how much or what spring rates should be thinking about, things of that nature. So it's been a really fun project, and I guess upon completion of at least QA1 wrapping up development of the kit, that's when I brought the truck back home and blew it apart and destroyed my garage. Trying to grind the frame down by hand with a flap disc and trying to get all the Minnesota rust off of it so I can get it painted and do different things. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into putting it back together. So,
well, I know that our viewers and our listeners who are members of the goDRIVEit page, they are certainly going to recognize that truck because it's posted up there quite a bit, and that seafoam green color is unmistakable. That's Dave. It's also a little bit of an oddball in that it's a long bed, and I love it, man. I think it's fantastic, and I'm glad that you said you're never going to paint it. It's a really cool truck. I got to ask, bro, how many miles have you put on it since you put it back together?
The nice thing is I have Dakota digital gauges in it, so I was able to reprogram the odometer and keep that consistent. I have right now, it's not quite 30,000 miles on it, but about 29,000 miles I think I have it. But I think what should be noted is I live 7 miles from work. So my commute is relatively short. But let's see here. This year is kind of an odd year, obviously, for travel because we're staying close to home. But last year, it was I think it was 15 states all said and done, and not trailered. I mean, we drove, through several different events and different races that we did. One of my favorites was the Motor State Challenge. Actually, we just got done doing just last weekend. But we drove from Minnesota to Michigan, raced for 3 days, and then drove home. And so it's over 600 miles there, 600 miles back with racing in between.
That's awesome.
This year we took our F100 out to let that stretch its legs a little bit. So that was a lot of fun.
It's also unique because it still sports the small block, right? You haven't LS swapped that thing.
I have not.
Good.
And I don't know why fully. I honestly, there's a lot of benefits to the LS. I mean, there's
don't do it.
Story, but this is still a Gen 1 small block. Granted, it's a really nice piece from Blueprint that I decided to put in there. I went with a long block from them. Few different reasons. Going through school, I went to school for Automotive, and I, obviously building engines through there and different things. But I decided I'm going to leave the engine building aspect of it up to someone that does it on a semi-regular basis. And also, too, I was trying to cram so much into one winter because come April or, end of March here in Minnesota, once the snow melts, I want to drive again. And I want the truck to be done. I want it driving, and it's going to drive the rest of the summer. And so that's been something we're trying to keep those tight deadlines on. Okay, right before we go to SEMA every year, the truck gets put away because I can come back and there's snow on the ground. And then come early springtime, it's back on the road driving. But yeah, it's a pretty healthy small block in there, to say the least.
I'll tell you what, in 20 years from now, it's going to be rare. It's original, exactly. Small block and well, not original, but it's a small block that's not an LS and a long bed, dude. There's not going to be many left. I'm telling you.
The few, the proud, the long bed. Yeah.
Do you have wood in the bed?
No, it's a steel bed. That's in this one. Yeah, it was something that originally when I acquired it, I was thinking, yeah, this will get made into a short bed at some point in time, but there's been something about owning a long bed for as long as I have, where I love the look of a short bed, but they sometimes just look too short to me. And maybe it's because I'm accustomed to seeing that 8-foot bed, and I don't know. It's been growing on me. And if we're out at an autocross event or we're doing something with the truck, and someone goes, "Were you really just wheeling that long bed around an autocross?" I'm like, "Yep." So
Hell
it's like
yeah,
it's like
man.
a cruise ship. It gets around really well. It's nimble. It doesn't feel like it's as long as it is.
Right.
So
Dave,
yeah.
what are some of the, off the top of your head, what are some of the most unique and just wild things that you've seen posted on the goDRIVEit page by members, vehicles, locations, etc.?
Some of my favorites are, I love seeing people posting pictures from some of the epic roads around the country. Like Taylor Dragon comes to mind. I love seeing posts from people who have never done Taylor Dragon, and then seeing their testimonial of Taylor Dragon when they get to the top or the bottom, either or. Because I've done that road myself. Actually, we did that coming back from a show a few years ago, and it's 300. For those that aren't familiar, I think it's 318 turns and 11 miles. I think it is, and it goes from North Carolina to, was it Tennessee? I think it depends on what
Right.
direction you're going. But I love seeing those types of posts where people experience something. They're doing like a selfie-like video, like, we're at the bottom of Taylor Dragon, and that was the most incredible thing I've ever done it with a car before. Those are really neat. I love seeing when people drive their, maybe it's not a pristine car. This truck's not pristine in any way, shape, or form, but they drive it to the hardware store and they got lumber hanging out of it. I love that stuff.
Definitely.
Or, I love seeing posts where they drive their car to work, and maybe it's a professional business person, but they drove their car to work, and it's a ratty muscle car mixed into a sea of just normal,
Silver appliances.
exactly. It's that pride. It's that pride thing. It's that badge of, you know what? I can do this. Why can't I drive my muscle car? What's preventing me from doing that? And so those are the types of posts where it's like this enablement, or I don't know the right way to really describe it, but those are the fun posts to see. And I encourage more of that. I think it's so cool.
Have you seen some feedback from people stating their inspiration, like, "Oh man, this has inspired me to drive"? I remember, not me. I think cars are meant to be driven, and you know, someone once told me that if a car can make a 30-minute drive, it'll probably make a 2-hour drive. So just send it. And that's been my motto, for a very long time. So I have a tendency to end up on the side of the road. But but I'm curious if you've seen a lot of like appreciation or inspiration posts like that.
Yeah, I definitely have. What's been really cool is also those seeing the encouragement to see like a father-son duo
Oh,
strike
cool.
up a project. And I've seen a handful of those actually here in recent days because of a lot of people in quarantine where they go, you know what? I've had this car sitting here. We're not doing a whole lot of stuff. The kids are out of school. Let's just dig into this project. And I've seen a couple where they're taking the car out for the first drive. This project that they just put back together that's been, torn apart for several years maybe, and inspiring and encouraging someone in the younger age to maybe get interested in cars. And they get off their cell phone for 10 minutes and put their hands on the car and work with the car and experience it with a loved one is awesome to see. We've kind of toyed around with a "Go Teach It" hashtag
Cool.
alongside goDRIVEit a little bit, and it's been cool seeing parents working with their kids and teaching them skills. Or there was one that was really neat where, don't quote me on the age, I think she was 11 years old, but it was a father teaching his 11-year-old daughter how to weld. And it was really cool. She laid actually a better bead than I can lay. I'm not a great welder, but she laid down this bead that was really good. And she flipped up the helmet and she goes, "How's that, Daddy?" And he's like, that's awesome, honey. Like, and that was really cool to see, but they're working on their car together.
Yeah, man, that's one of those heartwarming moments for sure. I love stuff like that. So Dave, just to reiterate, what do you guys? It's August 8th, 9th, 10th, or 7th, 8th, 9th?
Well, the odometer challenge goes from 7th, 8th, and 9th. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The goDRIVEit cruise that takes place leaving QA1 and then going along the river, that's on the 8th.
Okay.
And more information can be found on qa1.net/cruise if anybody is up in the area and interested in joining. So
cool. Because I have a project on Street Muscle that is just starting. It's a 2010 Camaro SS, and it's a high mileage car. It's already on. I got it with 170. And so I'm just revamping it. It's bone stock, but we're just going to put some speed parts on it. And my goal is to make 500 horsepower and take it to 500,000 miles.
oh, dang.
Yeah. So on that bone stock engine, because there's this story about this guy who worked at the Griffith Observatory, which is right here in Los Angeles. It's right across this valley from the Hollywood sign. So people who come to LA and they visit and they want to see the Hollywood sign, they park up at the top of the Griffith Observatory, where there's like a planetarium and some other things, and Griffith Park is at the bottom. Well, this guy, he was like the museum director or something, and he bought a brand new in '67 Camaro. It was a straight six, and he drove it to work every day. I don't know if he still works there, or even if he's still alive, but it was the million-mile Camaro, and I think there have been articles done on it. But yeah, it was really cool. It was almost the color of your truck, maybe a little bit more blue, but that's always been like in the back of my head, like, oh man, it'd be cool to have a car that reaches 1 million miles. So I figure half a million is pretty good.
Yeah, but doing 500 horsepower for 500,000 miles, that would be a pretty cool goal to shoot for.
For sure. Yeah, because that's with an LS3, you can make 500 horsepower with bolt-ons. And feasibly have a pretty reliable, power plant. And so if you could take that LS platform to 500,000 miles while making 500 daily horsepower, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So in the spirit of goDRIVEit, yeah, it's just the project is called the Daily Camaro, but actually making it my daily has been difficult because I'm not driving to the office anymore. So. But I live real close to Ortega Highway, and so like almost every weekend I'm taking it over there and driving from Temecula to San Juan Capistrano, which is how many miles is that, Greg? Maybe 50 miles one way?
50 miles one way, yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah, over very twisty roads. It's not Tail of the Dragon twisty, but it's pretty twisty.
See, now, but you brought up a good point, though, that you don't necessarily have to have a destination to go drive your car. And I've heard that a lot lately. And now that I think about it, a lot of people are saying, well, gosh, I'm not driving to work, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that, or I'm not running to the store like I normally would. But you know what? There's no reason why you just can't set your GPS on drop a pin somewhere you've never been, hit ignore highways, and go.
Yeah.
Right? And you could do that. I mean, clear your head, just relax. There's something about driving an old muscle car that just kind of brings you back to the basics that is tough to really compare.
I love it. And I know you say old muscle car, but I think, whether I'm in my pickup truck or, my Firebird, it doesn't really matter. As long as I'm behind the wheel and I'm on the road and I'm driving, destination or otherwise, I'm usually having a good time. I love to drive. And throw on a podcast, throw on some music, whatever, open up the sunroof, put the top back, whatever. It's just a good experience, man. And it's some time that you're not looking at your stupid phone or your computer screen or the TV or any number of those things that are telling you what to think or how to feel. And you're just driving. And I love it.
Yeah, I think the cell phone element is, for me, probably what hits home the most. I mean, gosh, I mean, those cell phone health apps that show you how many notifications, how much screen time you have, and all that stuff during the day. I mean, it's astounding to me, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of notifications that come through between email or social media or whatever you're subscribed to. They never stop. And so when you're driving legally, of course, you're not on your phone.
Exactly.
Right? So it's a way to just kind of let your mind just kind of wander. Or one of my favorite things to do, truthfully, is if I'm trying to like work myself through a certain problem, and maybe it's just a complex problem, I'll just hop in the car and drive, and I'll just break the problem apart into a bunch of little mini things. And next thing you know, I can kind of sort through, okay, here are the steps I'm going to need to take to solve this issue. But there's something about cruising down the road that just helps that unravel.
There are 3 places off the top of my head where I can do that. You hit the nail on the head with one of them, behind the wheel of the car. The other is was in the gym. I love the gym. I get a lot of thinking done when I was working out. I haven't been able to do that lately. And the other is the shower. But that's only 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
On a good
Well,
day.
I mean, shower. I've got a great story for that. I was.
Whoa.
Wait, what type of show is this again?
Yeah.
No, I was in the shower thinking about engine stuff because I was thinking about a new project and what are we gonna do? And it hit me like like you hit your head on something. It was the Bourne stroke that we were just. It was like, this is gonna be perfect. And I remember running to my office wrapped in a towel, dripping wet. I had to write it down because I didn't want to risk forgetting anything. And literally, this is a project that it's submitted. You guys will see it soon enough. But it finally gelled in the shower, and it was just because I was thinking, it was like brain empty, and then it was like, if I had markers, I would have been writing on the shower walls. I would have been doing displacement calculations and stuff. But I was doing it in my head, and I had to write it down because I knew I would forget it. And I remember it was hilarious. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
This has been Shower Time with Greg. No, but seriously, to your point, Dave, it's a great place to just clear your head. And then if you can do it with somebody else, like a passenger, all the better. You crank up some tunes and hit the road. It's fantastic. I know recently you had a buddy of mine come visit you. And to me, this dude, he embodies the goDRIVEit spirit very well. His name's Jacob Davis. He just opened a speed shop called Sally Speed Shop, and he's out of is he in Atlanta? I know he's in Georgia, but is he in Atlanta?
I don't know specifically the town for me.
Yes. Small town in Georgia, and I've been watching this dude's story. If you don't follow him, check him out on Instagram. It's Sally Speed Shop, and he built this like Quonset hut with his dad. This huge building where they're going to be working on a bunch of projects. They actually already have. One of them was like this wild lifted 68 caddy. This thing's nuts with like 39-inch mud boggers. But he famously put together an LS swapped El Camino over a 3-day period at Hawley's LS Fest in 2019. I was there. I witnessed it. It was really cool. And then he drove it out of there. So while he was building this shop, he, that project was on ice for a little bit because he had his hands tied up with other things. But he recently got it back on the road, rebuilt the rear end, did some other things. And like the first destination was QA1. So he drove down and went and saw my buddy Dave. Dave, please tell us like what that whole trip was about. I know he did like some product installation for QA1 and you guys went over that. What was that like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we've been friends with Jacob Davis for a long time. And I think, you really said it nicely. He embodies the goDRIVEit spirit better than most that I know. And to put in perspective, something he told me was in the last 4 years, he's put on over 100,000 miles in old classic muscle cars. And for someone that hasn't driven a muscle car, or one that doesn't have AC and all that stuff in the hot summertime, that's something to applaud yourself on. That's pretty cool. But no, you're right. He was busy working on his shop. He was doing that for probably 6 odd months. Building that shop. From clearing trees to pulling stumps to trying to get the grading right, and then finally concrete poured and all this stuff. Through rainstorms and different things that just kept setting him back. And so he finally got everything under, I guess, one roof, essentially, and said, you know what, I'm going to go clear my head and do what I do best, and that's drive. And so he left Georgia with no destination in mind, truthfully. He knew there was a couple different friends along the way that he wanted to stop and see, but one of the coolest things that he did was he set his GPS to no highways and just set a marking out there, a beacon out there, and just drove. And I mean, literally, he didn't call us until like probably 2 weeks, or 2 days before. He's like, "Hey, I'm doing this cross country road trip thing. I might pop into Wisconsin. I don't know. I might just drive over to Minnesota and say how do. Are you guys gonna be around on Wednesday?" Like, of course, yeah, come on by. But he drove, all the way from Georgia all the way up to Minnesota, stopped at a few places along the way. He stopped at a lot of just really scenic overlooks. He stopped at, various rivers and different things, and just took his time, historical markers along the way, and just did it by himself. I mean, a really basic tool bag in the back and a spare tire and a couple T-shirts, and he was off. But no, he came up. He spent the day with us. It was cool. We just moved into a new facility in January with the full intent of having an open house and showing people the facility and all that stuff. Obviously, has been on hold, but he came through, able to show him, where the parts that he has on his car were really made, which was neat. 'Cause he just did a full install on his El Camino last fall, where he put one of our handling kits on there. And so it was cool for him to see where we machine the internal parts for the shocks, where do the shocks get put together, where we do all our welding and fabrication work, tube bending, the lasers, even where we do our carbon fiber drive shafts. You got to see the drive shafts actually being wound there in-house, which is really cool. And then, of course, we offered up, said, "Hey, you just drove across country. You want to throw your car on the lift and let's take a look underneath?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't think this car's ever been on a lift." So no, we took a look at it. Everything was in great shape. We're picking chunks of road debris out from underneath the car. There's grass and different things that he's accumulated from his road trip. But no, he's the type that just drives. It doesn't matter where the destination, what he's trying to do, just drives. And I think it's so cool. And he does embody the spirit of taking advantage of stopping at these cool places. Or he might go through a town of 100 people. There's an old historic building there that you wouldn't see because it's 10 miles off the highway. But no, really cool dude. Really had fun hanging out with him.
Yeah, man, he has a great attitude. He's always, just every video that he posts, and I watched him when he was building that his shop, and yeah, they ran into a bunch of roadblocks, but he always has a great attitude, and I really enjoy his content. So again, if you guys want to check out his channel, check it out. Oh, matter of fact, I don't have it here with me, but he sent me the coolest bumper sticker. It says Dan Gurney for president. I love it. It's so good.
Nice.
But yeah, I've had projects like that in the past that aren't the prettiest or, maybe the most structurally sound because they have a little bit of rust here or there. But they're just so much fun to drive because they're just old ratty muscle cars. And I think that's like a movement that has taken off in the past few years. Before it was like people might be ashamed to bring like this old car out because it's primered or it has like rusted out quarter panels or something. But now people wear those like badges of honor just to be, just to get their car out there and drive. And I love it, man. I love it so much. And goDRIVEit. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah. And what's cool about that car in particular, his El Camino, is it has a really neat story behind it that he explained to us. And I think it's an exclamation point on how cars can connect you with either a time or a person. Because this car that he owns was owned by a friend of his that unfortunately passed away, and he was able to acquire the car from the family, and he kind of made a commitment of, I'm going to do the things in this car that you were unable to. And he kept the heritage of the car true to what it was. He didn't do any upgrades or anything that his friend wouldn't have done. But when he tours the country, it's a way for him to connect with his friend that's no longer here. And that's really cool. And you see those stories come out, especially with, again, generally speaking, older vehicles that have such a family connection, or it maybe reminds you of, my grandpa had an old truck like this, and it brings you back to a person where you just kind of feel like you're with them a little bit.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. I do know the story behind the El Camino, and it's totally cool. All respect to him. Dave, I'm curious. This isn't something I asked you before, though, because you inadvertently answered it. But on goDRIVEit, it's not just for classic cars, right?
No, it is anything. I mean, essentially, if you're able to drive it, whatever that contraption may be, that's what it's about, right? And so, we do have motorcycles on there. We do have, we have late model, we have classics, we have, I've seen snowmobiles on there. Cliff, I'm talking to you. But there's sure a range of vehicles that's on there. I mean, and it's fun too, because you see these things where you'll see a big push of we had this one group. It was a bunch of Chevettes joined, all about the same time.
Very cool.
And it was just like this takeover of Chevettes. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? But it was cool, and it was cool seeing someone that maybe had a late model Corvette going, dang, that thing is actually kind of cool, and watching those two parties engage in a mutual conversation was really neat. So,
well, you talk about a group that's notorious for not putting miles on their car, and that's like late model vet owners.
That's right.
But that's totally cool, man. Greg, we were joking just a minute ago, and you were telling us about all the miles that you've put on some of your projects, dude, and Dave was so impressed.
Well, I'm going to start off by defending myself with the fact that I had a road race car with 186,000 miles on it. So, I mean, that thing had, I don't know that I've ever seen. Huh?
You're talking about your Focus, right?
Yeah. I mean, that thing had probably 120 dyno poles on it. Had at least 1,500 road course miles on it. Probably another 150 drag strip passes, had like 5 bottles of nitrous through it. I abused the snot out of that car, and it never let me down. I mean, and most of it with a roll cage, a window net, and one seat, driving in rush hour traffic.
A serious race car.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Did you put 180,000 on yourself?
I bought the car with 19.
Oh man.
Wow.
19,000, not 19, but still, it was 19,000.
But still.
Yeah, that was all me. I mean, I was also driving 120 miles a day to work and back. And there's nothing like, I will never forget the look on the CHP officer's face when he locked eyes with me through my window net and just shook his head. Like that was confirmation that I had arrived. Like, he didn't want to mess with me. He just shook his head.
Greg, you have mentioned that car several times before on previous episodes, but you've never gone into depth. How much horsepower did you end up making with that thing on those dyno pulls?
136 at the wheels was the most, because that was nothing but bolt-ons. It was no internal work.
For a little Focus.
Well, it weighed like 2,450.
Really? That's more than I would have thought. That's okay.
Well, I mean, I'm a big boy.
Was that gutted?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah. Wow, dude, that's cool. So
people underestimate power to weight ratio.
Yeah,
you can have a lot of fun with not so much horsepower. Dozens of horsepower, you can have a lot of fun if your car weighs 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, the car was not fast. I mean, I want to say I want to say the quickest it ever ran in the 8th mile was like 980s.
Yeah, but that's relative. Fast in a straight line. But
oh yeah, I mean, you take me to track day, and that was just. I still have somewhere on my Facebook a picture of me beating up on Spectre's Camaros because they were like, "Oh, these are road race cars." I was like, "Those are show cars," and I happened to have my Focus there, and I was like, "Let's go."
Yeah, so, my buddy Sean Brereton, he had the Miata, and he was like bragging that it made like 98 horsepower or something like that, and he said, "Oh, come out to the track with me, and I swear I'll make you pee your pants." Because you know, to your point, it's still fast is relative. You know?
Well, I can tell you right now, the 2 scariest cars I ever was a passenger in at Big Willow, so Willow Springs, were a 98 horsepower Miata that was driven by somebody who I'm pretty sure is clinically insane. And again, another clinically insane dude who had a Fox body with about 480 horsepower, but he didn't believe in traction. He just believed in sliding everywhere. So like I said, those were the 2 probably scariest, things, and just drastically different ends of the spectrum.
Greg, I'm not letting you off the hook yet about your mileage, but Dave, I know that you mentioned earlier that you do a little bit of autocrossing with your truck, or have done a little bit of autocrossing with your truck. Have you found that those 2 types of people run in the same circles, like the guys who are out there and they're part of the goDRIVEit community? Are they also people who do a lot of track days, i.e. racing, drag racing, etc.?
Yeah, actually, there is a fairly decent crossover there. It's, I think autocross is such a welcoming type of sport where you don't need to have a purpose-built race car to participate, where you do see a lot of street cars join in and do autocross, and even mile track days at a road course, to where people are taking and refining their skill set on the track, I think in a lot of cases, to have more fun on the road too. So that enhanced driver skill set applies to how you drive your car just on the street. And so it's fun watching that crossover. And whether it be a long bed pickup that is definitely a knife and a gunfight anytime you bring it to an autocross, or you're just hanging the back end sideways and you're kind of coming around a corner because that's the only way you can get around it. Or I mean, shoot, we have one of the trucks we have at the shop is it's a nice little just OBS 88 to 98 short bed pickup that we built up for development, but it's besides let's see here, it still has stock brakes. It has wider wheels and tires. It has our suspension on it, but it's just a tired V6 that's in there. But I tell you what, that thing is so fun to drive because you can't overpower it. Like we take it around some of the traffic circles and different things, or some of the windy roads around here. And I swear, you can just hold that gas to the floor and you can't lose. It's like a dang go-kart.
Yeah, I bet.
It's fun. So
so I was talking to Greg about this the other day, and our content director and VP Scott Parker, who and we were talking about some trends that are going on right now and vehicles that are going to be hot in the future. You mentioned OBS pickup trucks. I'm curious, what else do you think is going to be coming up here pretty soon?
A lot of people. I think it's what was cool when you're in high school, right? So you take someone that's in their 30s or maybe 40s, and you look back at what was the popular vehicle when they were in high school. And I guess we've witnessed that where, that evolution into migrating north in year range tends to follow that trend. So the OBS trucks were seen as being something that more and more people are getting into. But there's some others as you start to look at some of the 3rd and 4th gen F body platforms that maybe haven't been going crazy like obviously the 1st and 2nd gens do. But I think their time is about here where they're really going to start to take off. I mean, there's obviously very different styling cues between the two, whether it was kind of Miami Vice style with the third gen, or
I
you know,
love
a little
IROC.
bit more. Yep, I love IROCs. Love an IROC, or a little bit more of a modern, sleek look of a fourth gen. But no, I think it's following that high school, what was cool in high school trend for, again, that age group that's in their 30s and 40s.
Right
So
on.
yeah,
What about you? You mentioned third and fourth gen Camaros, but what about two valve or new edge Mustangs?
that's something too where, you know, there's definitely a crowd where, you know, there's a desire to, you know, be able to just go get a car and just have a lot of fun with it right off the bat. You know, starting with something that's maybe a little bit older is going to come with some pain points, with either some updated maintenance that needs to happen or some outdated technology that's just maybe not relevant for a younger crowd. But we are seeing and witnessing, again, the late model performance coming on in a big way, and there's no hiding it. I mean, look at what Dodge has done over the years. They have done such an incredible job and really appealed to that enthusiast crowd in a big way. And they've done some really good things. And I think they've helped motivate and push, you know, some of the other major manufacturers. I mean, Ford has done an outstanding job, I would say, with what they've done with the Mustangs. And, you know, GM is getting there. I'm a GM guy at heart, you know. But I definitely think that, you know, hats off to Mopar fans out there for what Dodge has been able to do.
Definitely. Greg, you're a dyed in the wool Ford guy. Where do you land on those early 2000s Mustangs? Are you a fan? Because I know that, like, even for Mustang guys, like, some of those are like hated.
Well, I mean, big sigh here. I bought my 94 because I was bound and determined. I wanted a new body style, but a push rod, right? And then I realized why that was such a bad choice. I realized why everybody hated them.
They're underpowered and
well, yeah, and they're not quite, you know, OBD2, and it was like Ford just kind of gave up for a couple of years with, you know, trying to make them work right, and it's a mess. I absolutely love the 94 98 body style. I was actually looking at mine the other day, just standing there looking down the side.
The new edge, man.
Well, okay, hold on, let me get there. And so, you know, I'm looking at it and I love the curves. It's got such subtle little curves, whatever. But then you get into the 90, 96, 98. And so you got the two valve, and that thing's a mess. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care how beautiful, you know, the SN95 is, the two valves a mess. But then you got the new edge, which has, you know, it has the PI. So they kind of fixed some stuff, and it wasn't such a pile. And the new edge body style, it grows on you. Like, either you love it or hate it, but it will grow on you. I like it because Cobras, right?
Yeah,
because
I was gonna say I like them, but you have to convert everything to be a Cobra.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know that they're. If I say what I'm thinking, my Ford brethren are gonna disown me. But I will tell you right now, around here, I mean, okay, maybe my area is a bad judge, but new edges are not driven by enthusiasts. Let's just say that. Any new edge around here is not an enthusiast.
All right.
Like, and I think that's probably the best way, because it's not like any one particular group or person or whatever is driving them. It's not enthusiast. I mean, I hate to say it, I'm not, but it's kind of a chick car.
Wow.
I mean, around here, it's
I'm
like
offended right now, Greg.
I'm not. I'm just saying it's what it's become. I don't know why.
Well, the Mustang has always been considered, quote unquote, a secretary car, and I hope I'm not offending anybody because those are not my words. But yeah, they've always been, you know, called the secretary car, and I'll just leave it at that. Dave, I'm curious, what's a car that, like, you guys have gotten at QA1? You guys have gotten a lot of calls about, like, hey, we want to see some products on this car, and you guys just haven't found it to make sense just yet. What's one of those cars?
Anything low production. We get actually a lot of calls for the cyclones and typhoons, which super cool trucks.
Definitely.
But what they make like 4,500 of each one. Like it was super low numbers.
And the same parts wouldn't cross over to like a Blazer or something of the same year?
Well, because they were all-wheel drive,
Oh, yeah.
you're not going to have that same crossover. Now, interior panels and body panels, short of like some of the cladding and stuff, was all the same. But those are ones that we see a lot for. And it's difficult because it is an enthusiast vehicle, top to bottom, right? I mean, they're super cool, but they just didn't make a tremendous amount of them. And so, it's difficult to try to figure out how to R&D and engineer a system that
makes sense. How have you guys seen people adapt and use your parts to make custom kits like that? Like, well, okay, you guys don't have a ready-made kit, but I can use your coilovers. And how do you guys go about the part suggestion there?
Well, what's cool is in the automotive sector, you're going to have these little niche groups and shops or individuals, right? They are passionate about this very specific vehicle, and they know someone that has a CNC machine or a plasma cutter or something where they might burn off 30 parts at a time. And then they come to a company like QA1 and say, hey, I want to use your shocks in this system. We see that with we don't make anything for a Nissan 240, but there's a couple companies that make the adapter brackets and the things you need to put our coilovers in a Nissan 240, as an example.
Very cool. What are some considerations? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, what are some considerations that you guys have to make, like when those people call and they say, hey, I'm putting together this kit, I already have the brackets, I need some coilovers that are going to be optimal for this vehicle. This is the gross weight. I'm just spitballing here. How does that process work?
Yeah, so actually, and that's something that we do a lot of. And you could call up and you could be building a tube chassis vehicle that it's one of one. And if you want to put QA1 products on there, it can be done. And so the most common one is shocks and springs and things of that nature. Our tech team, and I worked in the tech team for many, many years. We take that call 10 times a day, right? A car either we've never heard of before or it's a home-built project that we're going to just basically size up a system for you based on being handy with a tape measure. And really, I mean, not to make it overly simple, if you're decent with a tape measure and you're able to follow some simple instructions of understanding full bump to full droop and being able to take a couple key measurements for us at ride height, we can match up a shock really easy. And a little bit of a selfless plug, but we do have an article on our website about that that we can go look at. But shocks are just half of the equation. Oftentimes, coil springs are the other consideration that need to be made. And we have a lot of resources, and our team is pretty knowledgeable to where in literally 3 or 4 minutes time, we can have a spring right in front of you. And that's pairing past experiences on other projects or different data that we might have on some different vehicle types to be able to make a recommendation for you, again, if you're willing to help us with some key pieces of information. So we do that all the time.
Well, so often we hear about coilovers being used for, cars that are really trying to improve their handling and stuff.
Yep.
But what about people who are, maybe not so much into going around a turn? They just want to go straight. They do a lot of drag racing, things like that. Is that a market that you guys cater to as well? I mean, can you guys set those people up?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If you're drag racing, coilovers are a great option for you in almost every scenario. And the reason why I like coilovers in a drag racing scenario is because you have so much flexibility in what springs you choose, right? So depending on what your chassis setup is, you can get a really light spring rate in there so that you can store a whole lot of energy to help promote that weight transfer. If you have, let's say, leaf springs or torsion bars or some other type of suspension system, that becomes a lot more difficult. And so coil springs, if you're able to go to a coilover type setup in your chassis, gives you a lot of flexibility. And if you're going to go to the racetrack and race, or if you're going to street drive it, or a combination of the two, you can swap springs out or do different things and just have a lot of flexibility. But also, it gives you a lot of adjustability for ride height. And that's really one of the key benefits in my eyes, is because the stance of a vehicle is the make or break of that vehicle. And everyone has a different opinion of what the perfect stance is, which is fine. And if you want to take a coilover and adjust it to the 32nd of an inch, have at it. You can do that and make sure it sits perfectly level, get that perfect rake on it. There's a lot of benefits to coilovers.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for answering that tech tip for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But hey, so before we let you go, Dave, I just want to give you an opportunity to reiterate those dates for us one more time. Tell people where they can find out more about the cruise and everything that you guys have going on for QA1 and goDRIVEit.
That's right. So our goDRIVEit cruise that we're holding is going to be on August 8th up at our facility in Minnesota, Lakeville, Minnesota. You can find information at qa1.net/cruise. And I really encourage everybody, if you thought this conversation was interesting, you feel that you embody that goDRIVEit spirit, join the goDRIVEit Facebook group. It is a really cool community, a lot of like-minded individuals, love driving cars. Join, share that with your friends, your family, and share a couple stories with us.
100%, man. Right now, I'm going to challenge my co-host, Greg Acosta, to participate, because I'm going to be participating that weekend. I'm going to take my Camaro out. And Greg, I want you to put some miles on that Mustang, man. And I want to see who can put more on that day.
Are you really challenging me to actually put more than 1,000 total miles on my 6-month-old new car?
Yes, dude.
Like,
I am. This is the gauntlet, and you're not gonna have to put a whole lot. I'm not gonna go anywhere too far, but I am gonna be participating, and I'll post up on the goDRIVEit Facebook page too. So if you guys are watching and you guys want to participate and see if you drove more than me, go ahead and post up.
Love it. So good deal. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. This was a fun conversation, and congratulations. Was episode 23?
That's right. Yep. Episode 23. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Dave. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, whether it's about tech stuff, car guy stuff, or anything in between, man. I really appreciate it. And we can't wait to talk to you again.
Sounds good. Take care, guys. Have a great evening. We'll see you.
So there you have it. Dave Kass, everyone. What a fantastic guest. Every time I get to talk to him, man, it's a good time, whether we're talking about cars, parts, or everything in between. He's just a cool car guy, and I that's my favorite kind of guest. So far,
yeah,
that's what we've had. So
I mean, you hit the nail on the head with Dave, man. He is an enthusiast through and through. Like, I mean, you can tell there's some, manufacturers reps who it's a job, it's their job. And when they go home at the end of the day, don't want to take it with them.
Exactly.
But no, he's an enthusiast through and through.
No, dude, that's a great point. I've genuinely seen Dave get excited about people not only using like QA1 parts, but just people driving their cars, and that's why he's the perfect person to be behind the whole goDRIVEit thing. He just, he gets it. And I appreciate his time. And I hope all of our viewers and listeners enjoyed our conversation with him. And of course, if you have tech questions that we didn't hit, check out qa1.net. And of course, go follow them on goDRIVEit Facebook page and their Instagram, goDRIVEit.
Yeah. And
Great.
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just the goDRIVEit thing. Like, why would you not drive your car? I don't
That's
understand that
question, Greg.
Okay, I have reasons for why I haven't driven the car. Like, I know that. I mean, well, let's see. I got the black car at 111,000 miles, And then I parked it at 113,000 miles to do some stuff, and it spent a lot of years on jack stands. And then the rear end was always trying to kill me. But as soon as I got all that, fixed, I mean, I put more miles on it in 2018 than I think I put on it the previous 4 years combined.
I'm just busting your nuggets, man.
I know. I know.
I'm in the same boat. I think all of my cars have only been operational at the same time once in the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. It's always like one's running and then the other 3 are, torn down for some reason or broken. So it's just the way it goes, man.
Right now, it feels really good to have 4 working cars in the driveway. Because I can move them all, get to the ones I need to get to. And
you know what's funny, dude? I've always considered my motorcycle to be like my most reliable piece of equipment, and it left me stranded the other day. I was so bummed. I was like, you, of all vehicles, you do this to me. I can't believe it. But it happens, dude. But I do like the whole goDRIVEit thing, man. And that's why Dave was like the first person I wanted to have on the show. It's taken a while for us to connect because we're so busy, but I really love that. And I remember when I took the reins at Street Muscle, one of the things that I really wanted to exemplify was that spirit of, it doesn't matter if you have the cleanest, nicest, most powerful, most badass car, in your group of friends or on the internet or whatever. Who cares? Just go out and drive it, put miles on it, have fun with it. And so it was cool to have that conversation. With that said, what's up with Engine Labs, dude? You guys published some cool articles this past week, and you got some coming up. What's up?
Well, the coolest stuff I think happened this week. We have the dyno test with Lake Speed on the gas ported piston rings. And
yeah,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised. I didn't think that the rings themselves, just by themselves, would be better than a gas ported piston. But
so like that article was published on Engine Labs, but it also cross-posted on Street Muscle. So we're appreciative of that content. I know our readers are. Within, I don't know, a few hours, I had a bunch of comments on that article. People like contesting the results, people like agreeing with the results, surprised by the results. It was a charged article. It was pretty good.
Well, the thing is, and I mean, no one will deny this, those are cheater parts. Those literally, I mean, I can remember somebody getting tossed from a race because they had them. They were developed because they skirted a rule in a rule book. That's what they're for. Now they're in the mainstream.
Okay, so in layman's terms, for our readers who, or our listeners and viewers who aren't as well versed on these parts as we are, quick rundown for the the benefits and how they're cheater parts.
Okay. One of the things you do to pistons to make them seal better is you put gas ports in them. Basically, you're drilling holes in the piston, either vertically or horizontally, to let some of the combustion pressure behind the ring, not pressing down on the ring, but behind it, so the ring presses out and it seals. That's been a hot rod speed trick. I don't know. I don't want to call it a trick. It's a legitimate, use. But for years, some classes ban those because, mainly, the more stock-ish type classes. So Total Seal developed the idea, well, if they say we can't port the pistons, let's port the rings. So basically they're putting a lateral gas port instead of in the piston, they're putting it in the piston ring. So it still allows the combustion pressure to push it out. It skirted the rule books. It gave you gas porting without a gas ported piston. Unless you were caught. Then it was up to the particular sanctioning body to determine whether or not you were in compliance or not.
Now, have you seen that technology used either of the aforementioned modifications, whether it's the rings or the piston itself? Have you seen that used in like an OEM design ever?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not sure why.
Do you think it's because the structural integrity of the piston? Or
no, not at all. I think it's more to do with the clogging of the piston. Because the ports can clog up. I know the lateral gas ports aren't as bad, And I know that one of the
Do you
things
run in? Would you run into like a detriment to the system if that were to happen? Like, I mean, if they clog,
it just stops working.
okay, that's what I figured.
But the thing is, usually by doing that, you can run lighter piston ring tension because the combustion is pushing it out. So when it's not in combustion, it's not dragging as much.
Okay.
So if it were to clog and you had a light piston ring, now your piston ring isn't working properly because you're not getting, if you were counting on it.
Pressure. That makes sense.
And if you weren't counting on it, then why do you have it? Like, but so now they've released, I mean, it was probably 2 years ago. I think they had it at SEMA or PRI, and it was public now. Like, it was not a kind of behind the scenes deal.
And so this article is a dyno test comparing the two.
Yeah, it's actually comparing three. It's comparing the baseline is a laterally gas ported actual piston with the traditional piston ring, then a traditional piston without any porting with the gas ported piston ring, and then that same piston with no porting whatsoever. So standard ring, standard piston.
Right. So you got your base and then the two modified components.
Yeah, and one I did see one comment. I got an email from a guy who said, they were done, the tests were done a month apart. That's why we have, STD correction factors so that they're equally measured. But other than that, I mean, I didn't get any negativity from it. Now I'm going to have to go to the Street Muscle Facebook page and see what they said, just because I'm curious. But I mean, it's just really cool. And I mean, Shaver Specialties has been around forever, with Ron Shaver. And
you mentioned that you did this, that the test was conducted with Lake Speed Jr. Yep. He's another guy that we need to have on this show, dude. He's a very knowledgeable person when it comes to all things racing.
Oh yeah.
So what was your and like, what were you anticipating the results to be from the test? And you don't have to tell us what they are. If you want to find out, check out enginelabs.com.
Yeah. Realistically, I would have expected, my personal expectation was that the ported piston and the ported piston ring would have been swapped from where they were.
Interesting.
That's what I thought. I mean, I'm blown away. I mean, enough that I want to try a set. I want to use a set. I want to see what happens. I want to try them.
Okay, that's saying something without saying something. So I get you. Very cool.
And then the other cool thing we did was just a little pet peeve of mine, was the boxer engine versus the flat engine.
Oh, very cool.
And that's really all it is talking about boxer versus flat.
Now they have a similar engineering, right? Which is why they're being compared.
I even put it in the article. Like, I think it's the second paragraph, bottom line up front. All boxer engines are flat engines, but not all flat engines are boxer engines. So the same way that, all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs.
Are they though? Are thumbs fingers?
Yes, they're fingers.
I disagree, bro. It has its own name. It's a thumb.
And this is pointer, and this is tall boy, and this is ring finger, and this is pinky.
Tall boy.
Don't you remember?
No.
Here comes tall boy. Here comes tall boy. You don't remember that from being like daycare, nursery school, and all that?
I must have been sick that day or something. Viewers, listeners, I don't know what the hell Greg is talking about right now, but apparently this finger right here is called tall boy. You learn something new every day.
Did you not watch Sesame Street as a kid? I mean, did we just live completely different childhoods?
I mean, Sesame Street.
I'm not saying it came from Sesame Street, but I'm just.
Oh, I don't know, man. I've never heard that before, but that's funny. Tall boy.
Yeah.
When I think tall boy, I think like a tall boy, like a can,
That's because you're a filthy degenerate.
Yeah.
I was hoping I was going to get a spit
by the way,
on that.
everyone. This is a sparkling water. Not that I'm opposed to drinking beer. I like beer. But
anyway, yeah. I mean, the whole point of that is a lot of people like to argue. I think that's just the gist of the internet, right? But really, they're you can call anything with 180 degree cylinder angle a flat engine correctly.
Okay.
Boxer engines have a very specific crank pin orientation. Every rod has its own journal, basically, so that when it rotates, they go like this in unison,
Right.
versus a flat goes like this because they share
Oh,
a pin.
okay.
I mean, a flat engine is just 180-degree V. You have a V engine that they flattened out. My wrists don't go like that.
Yeah, but it creates more of like an oscillating motion rather than a rotation.
Well, no, I mean it still rotates. It's just the pistons are they thrust and parry versus going opposite of one another.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
I mean it's a small distinction, but it's a distinction in that a boxer engine is very well balanced.
Where was the first use of a boxer or a flat?
I'm not a historian. I don't know.
Oh, come on, Greg.
No, seriously, I'm not a historian.
Because I know famously they're used in Subarus and Mitsubishis.
The one really, I mean, a lot of them were in racing, but that's usually like a flat 8 or a flat 12. Apparently there were some flat 16s that were prototypes that never really came out, never really produced. One of the cool things is the Ferrari Berlinetta Boxster. Am I saying that right? It's the Ferrari Berlinetta Boxer. It's a flat 8, I think. No, flat 12. Crap, I don't know. It's in the article. But anyway, it's a flat engine, but it has boxer in the name, but it's not a boxer engine. But it's flat. And makes a lot of people angry. And they like to argue.
I got you.
But anyway, I mean, that article is just one that I've wanted to, put together for a long time. And I finally got around to it. And
very cool.
I mean, it comes off as very, very nitpicky and very pedantic. But
if we can be nothing other than nitpicking and pedantic, we have a duty.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be correct. Words mean things.
Yeah, man.
And we have to use the right terms.
You're the tech guru. You got to be.
That's not to talk crap, but it's like that article I wrote about torque. I think I called it Torque Talk, and it's pound-feet versus foot-pounds.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And
one of the most like common mistakes. But I mean, it's a common mistake. I've made it before.
I use it incorrectly all the time because it definitely flows better incorrectly.
Yeah.
But that article, I got so much hate from that. I got called so many names because I wanted to express the reason why it's correct and why it's not. But one of the best things was
things that like, it's almost like one of those brain things that you take for granted, and then sometimes you'll forget, and you're like, wait, hold on, I got to double check this. Where's Google?
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally get it. So if you guys are into tech minutia and stuff like that, check out enginelabs.com and check out those two articles in particular. They're fantastic. Well, I can only speak to the one that I read. It was great. But if you know Greg, his other one's going to be great too. As for Street Muscle, of course, you guys check out streetmusclemag.com. The latest stuff that we have going up by the time this airs should be the latest update for Snake Eyes, my 1972 Monte Carlo. This installment was it was the accessory, like all the accessories for a blower, and then also here pretty soon we'll have a section about putting the street ability back into our street strip car. So whenever I installed all those accessories, one of them was a very powerful fuel pump. And you guys who do a lot of racing or who just simply have a strong fuel pump, you'll know they're really loud. Exactly. So, as much as I like all of you guys' stickers that say "because race car," I actually like to listen to music and talk to my passengers when I have them. So putting a little bit of street ability back into the Monty. Basically, we partnered with Original Parts Group. We got some new sound deadening underneath the carpet. We got some new carpet. We got some new speakers that go in the kick panels because before they were mounted on the package tray, but now we have a remote fill gas tube that goes through the package tray from the sail panel. So we can't have the speakers back there anymore. So we moved them up to the passenger compartment. And there you go. We show you how we got that accomplished, and it'll be a good, fun article for you guys.
That sounds like an amazing article. I mean, as someone who has driven a real race car on the street, I now appreciate my creature comforts.
Definitely.
It's something. It sounds like it's fun, and at the time, I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved getting into a car with one seat in it. Like, that was so cool. But not anymore. That was also when I was, 19, 20 years old.
Well, I think the aftermarket has kind of answered that call, man, where you can have the performance of like a car that's, more finely tuned, even in the interior, in the cockpit, but with some amenities, right? Like that car is pretty bare bones. Yeah, I have a stereo and I got carpet and I have, some nice seats, but they have nice bolsters if you want to take it around a little autocross. Also, the floor is not getting super hot because there's sound deadening and like heat mitigation because of that sound deadening. And, you don't have an ugly Dynamatted interior, not to hate on Dynamat, but you have carpet. So yeah, it was something that I wanted, and I was happy to do it. And if you're interested in doing the same thing, definitely check out the article, because installing carpet might sound like, oh, that's something really easy, and realistically it was, but it's not as simple as you might think. So there's some decent tech tips in there for you guys. Definitely check out the article, streetmusclemag.com. Of course, check us out every Friday here on Facebook, noon Pacific time. Greg, I got nothing else, man. What do you got?
I'm good.
Cool, man. Well, with that, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you guys next week for episode number 24. Peace out.